Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Jakarta Jolteon's Season 14 draft review and a quick overview of Season 13. I wasn't able to finish most of the videos for last season just because a lot of things got busy during the summer, and I also got COVID, so I had to take a bit of a break and just focus on the gameplay instead of actually making the content. But we are now back and hopefully going to be able to keep it consistent this season. But before we get into our Season 14 draft, we obviously have a bit to talk about regarding our Season 13 run, where we started 0-3 and then went undefeated for the rest of the season to win it all. So yeah, I just wanted to quickly go over my thoughts on how last season went. Low tier format was a ton of fun to play, and obviously it was not a great start for us. Starting 0-3 at -6, differential was rough, and it was very, very easy to want to give up at that point. But, you know, shout out to the boys in PPA for reminding me to just keep going and enjoy the process. And we brought it back, made some good free agent acquisitions. And yeah, we brought it all the way back to 4-3 to end this regular season and just clinch that fourth playoff spot for our division. It was a really, really fun match against Firefalls, and we ended up tying overall in our differential, but because I won the head-to-head, gave me the edge in that. And, we didn't want to let the opportunity drop, and we just won round after round after round, all the way until grand finals, and it was a really fun set against Pancake in that finals, where Malamar really went off, and some people doubted this Pokemon. I was super high on it the whole time, and it was nice to see this thing really make itself the true playoff MVP that I knew it could be. So a ton of fun of this season, but yeah, we're just moving forward and looking to have a really fun season 14 with our regulation H rule set. And things are a little bit different this season. Obviously, no legendaries is a big thing, and Open Terra, which is going to be a new thing that we're trying here in VBL. It's going to be a little different in terms of prep. There's obviously going to be less of an element of surprise, which I do kind of rely on in a lot of my matchups. So I'm going to have to kind of adjust how I play and how I prep, just to kind of adjust to this. But yeah, we're looking at more depths on every team just because a lot more mons are viable. And without those legendaries and ruin Pokemon kind of taking over the meta, there's going to be other random Pokemon taking over the meta. But because it's the draft format, you can really make these teams super deep. And that's really what I focused on for this draft. So yeah, we're ready for a really fun Season 14, fully revamped with our new logo. Really excited for this thing and how it turned out. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right into our draft. And starting ourselves off with a very strong pick was our Season 11 playoff MVP, one of my favorite Pokemon just in draft format, Murkrow. Back in my rookie season where I won Season 11, this thing was a monster. It's one of the best support mons in the format with Prankster Tailwind, and it's very, very good because it can't be taunted by opposing Pranksters thanks to its Dark typing, and it just gets so many good support options. Not to mention it has Stab Foul Play to really hit hard against other physical attackers against it, so it doesn't even need to invest much in order for it to be at least somewhat offensively viable. But yeah, we're calling it back, ready to run it back in this regulation H format, and I think this thing is going to be a monster. Just very, very versatile overall and fits into a lot of team archetypes. That leads us to round 2. Might be seeing a trend. This is another Snowmon, reminiscent to our Obama Snow pick back in Season 11. This was actually the mon I was targeting in Season 11 before I got sniped by J-Star. So I eventually had to settle for Obama Snow because I was running a snow-based team back then. But we got this season, and for a really good price, I think, at 14. It's the premier Veil setter in this format, or in any format for the most part, just because it's so fast, has good typing with that fairy, defensive typing and offensive typing. It's got good speed and has access to good spread damage with Blizzard, and just really good utility offense in just one price package. Like, this thing does a lot for a really good price, and I'm really happy to have it on the team finally after missing out on it a couple seasons ago. So yeah, I think this thing's going to be awesome paired with the Murkrow. And our next pick, which you might see, is another returning champ, Big Bad Bax, our Baxcalibur, a really good snow partner. This thing just hits super hard. That's pretty much all I have to say about it. It was really fun to use a couple seasons ago, and I think this is finally a format where it can really thrive. And with its like #1 partner next to it in Ninetales, I think this thing's gonna like really work well for me. Obviously that ice defensive boost is really helpful, kind of negating some of the weaknesses it does get from having an ice typing. But it's got a great ability, making it immune to Will-O-Wisp and boosting itself with fire moves. So you can't really slow it down with burns. And it's got good bulk overall. So you don't have to worry too much about investing in it without you worrying about it dying. And it just hits super strong with that 145 base attack. So excited to bring it back. Already 2 Mons from previous seasons have returned to the team. So kind of setting that trend. This is basically just kind of like a season 11 rerun. Going into round 4. This is our high tier pick. It's Mousehold. I despise this Pokemon. I guess I despise playing against it. I like the concept of it, but I hate playing against it. And it was available at my pick in round 4. I just thought, why not? Let's take it. It's very good on my team, I think. Kind of redirects a lot of the threatening attacks onto a lot of my setup sweepers. Frengar is obviously a very good ability, and it just brings in a lot of threatening offense with Population Bomb, obviously. But it really just kind of synergizes well with the team. Good speed tier. Follow Me is just a nuisance for opposing teams. And I think it just fits really well and allows me to continue to budget without spending too much on my overall team roster. So excited for this. Glad I don't have to face it this season. And coming in round 5, got to heat things up a little bit. Took 2 ice types, and we already have 3 fighting weaknesses, so figured we needed something to kind of counteract that. So we picked up Skeledirge, and this thing, honestly, I think works great for the archetype that we have. Obviously, we have already 3 decently fast Pokemon in terms of like the Tailwind format. So now we got an opening for our Trick Room option if we choose to continue to set that up. Good ghost typing to avoid getting hit by fighting type moves, and Unaware just makes it really strong against a lot of the setup sweepers in the format. It's got great bulk and longevity with Slack Off, and it's Torch Song, I think, is its special move that allows it to just boost itself up while doing good damage. Like, this thing has a lot of good tools and really works well with the rest of the team, I think. And I think it's going to fit really well with like Aurora Veil Snow mode. So really happy to try this thing out. I love the design of this thing. It's definitely my favorite starter out of this gen, and I haven't really gotten a chance to try it. So excited to try this thing out. Going into round 6, I have had this thing snipe for me season after season over the last couple of years, and I'm very glad to finally have this thing. Mudsdale. This thing is one of my favorite Pokemon. It's definitely my favorite from Gen 7. It's just a fun design. I love what it does in terms of the meta. Stamina is really good in this format, and it pairs well with my mouse. I can just beat it up, get that stamina boost, and start clicking body press. The ground types are not exactly common in this format in terms of viable ones, so I definitely got one of the better ones for a really solid price at 10. And I'm just really glad this thing fell to me because I think it really rounds out the Trick Room mode a little bit and just makes it a really good offensive and defensive piece. And yeah, I just like this Pokemon. This thing's dope. Love the card art that this thing's from the, I think it's last, I want to say it was like a couple of releases ago into TCG. Love this art, but this is a really cool Pokemon. Really happy to have it on the team. All right, going to round 7, we've budgeted our points a lot at this point. At the end, you'll see just how much the spread really was. But we didn't really spend a lot of points on like super high tier Pokemon. We really just rounded out the whole team to make sure everything we got was viable week to week. And I think Empoleon was a great pickup for the price. finishing up our Fairy Dragon Steel core and continuing to build on that Fire Water Grass core with Skeleturge. This thing is just a beast in terms of what it does. Really good bulk, really good defensive typing, and competitive really just kind of synergizes well with what we already have in our very offensively physical mode. So it's kind of like discourages teams from wanting to use Intimidate or clicking reducing attack reducing moves into me, because I can just switch in with this thing and get boosted up with competitive. It's got great bulk and solid move pool overall. This thing I think is going to work really well with the team, and I'm excited to try it out. I think it just works really, really well just overall. And the fact that it can kind of run in either Trick Room or Tailwind, it's not super fast, but 60 is like a really nice middling speed for it to kind of set up however I want, depending on the matchup. So really happy to have this thing. And that brings us to round 8. Speaking of our Trick Room matchup, we got our Zen and Power with Medicham. This thing is definitely a solid Trick Room setter, but it just really does so much more. Like, Pure Power hits hard. Just look at Season 11 with Azumarill. It does a lot of damage. When you have that huge power, Pure Power ability, all your moves become a threat, and it's just a menace. Like, it gets fake out support as well, and it's got a solid speed tier right in the middle, so I don't even have to run this thing with Trick Room. I can run this thing under Tailwind, or I can just use it as a supportive Mon. Like, this thing is going to work really, really well, I think, for this team, and I'm really excited that it fell to me. And it was like 6 points. Like, this thing is, I think, definitely worth more than that. And I'm really hoping I can get this thing rolling this season. All right, our last 3 rounds. We're in round 9. Luxray. We needed an Intimidator, so we need to see that Intimidation on this team. And for 5 points, this thing does solid work. It's got decent bulk, especially paired with the Intimidate ability. It's also got Guts, which is definitely a very viable ability as well, if I want to choose it to use it more offensively. And it just has a decent enough move pool to do enough work. And I think, depending on the matchup, this thing's going to be very solid. I'm excited to try this thing out. Love the design of this thing. Definitely wish it got a few more moves in its move pool. But I think overall this thing is going to do pretty well on the team. Very excited to try using it. All right. Look what we got. Returning to the team. After being awesome last season, I decided not to really experiment with new things and just go with something I'm familiar with. And we got our Contrarian, our playoff MVP, Malamar. 3 points for this thing. Like, I thought after last season, you know, I get it was a low tier format and we're going back to a standard regulation now, but I think this thing could be worth at least 5 to 7 points just in terms of the versatility it can do. It's got such good offensive power with Contrary. It gets stab knockoff. Obviously, 4 times weakness to bug is not ideal in a format that has a lot of U-turn users, but you can definitely move around that with Terra. So I guess in some ways it can be a Terra Hog, but the fact that this thing is on my team requires people to respect it. And it's another solid Trick Room setter if I need it. And I think it's just overall a very, very fun, versatile Mon. So I'm excited to have it back on the team to make another run, hopefully at playoffs and another chip. So welcome back, Malamar. And then finishing off our draft, we had 1 point and we put it to good use. Finished off our Fire Water Grass core with Quilladin. This thing has got solid bulk with a Violate. Decent enough attack, and it just has a good enough move pool to be a solid supportive piece, just for the remaining point that I had. So I think there's not really much more to be said about this thing, but it works well enough with my team, and I think just really happy to have this thing kind of to round up our draft. Yeah, oh, our text got cut off. That's whatever. But yeah, just in recap, obviously a very reminiscent team of our season 11 run. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Why not go with something you're familiar with a few new unfamiliar pieces? Very Murkrow enabled, obviously, and people had concerns that my season 11 team might not work well because I didn't have the most speed. But when you have Murkrow, you don't really have to worry too much about that. If you get Tailwind up first, you move first, and like compare that thing with a lot of the mons in this team, and it's going to work well. So that's kind of the idea here. We do have a really solid Trick Room option. A lot of the latter half of the team was kind of designed to be made for Trick Room mode, but I also chose a lot of middling speed Pokemon on purpose, just because I want to be able to lean either way. And I know that I can always get Tailwind up first for the most part, and win the Trick Room matchup in a lot of cases, just with what I've drafted. So it's also a very notably physical team, which I think I've done well with providing answers to in terms of the weaknesses in there. But that's something to keep in mind. Teams can definitely take advantage of that fact. But overall, very good depth on this team. I've noticed that my point spread, like, never spent more than 18 points on a Pokemon, and everything else just kind of staying in that mid to high tier range. And I think that worked out really well for us, because we didn't have to worry about just taking like 3 good Pokemon and a bunch of things that we never really want to bring. Basically everything on this team can come every week if I wanted to. We grabbed the 1-pointer that I think is highly valuable and usable in the format. We got a bunch of low to mid tiers that are definitely bringable every week. And I think just because we're playing in this Regulation H format, everything is just opened up so much in terms of the depth. Like, I'm very excited to see how this thing works, just overall as a unit. And I'm excited to see how everyone else's teams work out. Like, we just look at the depth of a lot of the other teams in the league. Let's see if we can find it real quick. Like, there's so many really interesting teams because of this Regulation H draft board, making everything just so much more broad. We got this really fun team with Weasley, like Dragapult and Volcarona for a good speed mode. It's also got a good Trick Room mode as well. We see Slushy making another run with Dragonite, and just a bunch of very good depth pieces that can really fit well with it. Yeah, I mean, everything I see here seems like a threatening, usable team, and I think that's really, really cool. I'm excited to see what everyone else does in terms of that. But yeah, I guess time will only tell. But yeah, thanks for watching. That is our recap for this and last season, and hoping to get a little bit more consistent with the uploads going forward in Season 14. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye for now.